Okay, just read. So that's the things we will just continue to do a demonstration. So, and for the previous one, I just mentioned, because these heavily rely on yourself, and I just be there to scaffolding. Okay, and the first thing you need to do is, have you figured out what is a GitHub do? Not yet? Okay, so what kind of answer you get?
Well, so far, like I kind of did my own profile and out and so forth.
Okay,
And then like I kind of know the basic tools of like, kind of navigating around GitHub and uploading it to like VS Code and so forth.
okay,
So I guess as of now, just be kind of understanding the code that's given in your finance folder.
okay, okay. So I don't know. Try to write in the code. It's different language for the computer to use. You can consider as like a human to writing an essay. It's there's a lot of similarity between that. So when you're writing an essay, have you ever experienced like there's some modification you want to make the modification, and then later on you figure out my previous version actually gonna be better, and then you want to go back, but it's overridden, and you probably need to rewrite it again. So that's a very common type of things when you write in your essay. So the same thing gonna happen in the code. It's like when you try to write in the code, you feel like, oh, I maybe have more efficient way to do that, and then I change my code. And when I run it, I realize that's a lot of mistake coming out of there. And I probably gonna go back to the original way that logic is cleaner. So that's the thing. But if you never try to use GitHub to save every version you're gonna have, and then there is no fast lane, you can just reverse to your previous version. So in that case, GitHub, they have the assumption that every modification you try to make at the current moment, they're not necessarily the best one. And maybe something point in the past, there's something working better. Okay. And that's also some time sensitive issue is like for some company, they are writing their code, they say they're providing a new function. And when they provide a new function, and then it turns out their system entirely crashed. And they have no idea where the error comes from. Then what's the best way you can do? It's just reverse back to the previous version that has been running for a long time ago. It has been tested. Although they don't really have the new feature, but at least it's make sure it's working. So that's essentially what's the GitHub gonna do. Okay, so over there, if you haven't doing any of these GitHub of the things, then still I will not teaching you how to do that, because that's the type of training you really need to go online and search by yourself to have the basic of the thing. So right now, I just assume you already loading everything in the GitHub from my project. So my project has the simple things over there. They're just talking about some tasks, some goal, and you can see in my folder. It's very initial beginning of that. I have the API folder and I have the data folder. So that's two different places. I'm just telling you where they are. So if some of you, as I just say, the goal here is try to analyze some financial data, then you can download the data from SEC to have the financial statement. But there are some students, they may be interested in some technical analysis. They want to analyze the stock price change. They don't really care about the fundamental to forecasting what's going on, or something they call it a statistic. And over here, I also have the data sets. So this is the data sets roughly. Let me see how much they have the daily price data. And then they have like a 700 some tickle. It's kind of very popular, like a company, they're gonna trade in the stock market at a certain time. Okay, and then in the daily of the zip data file, if you do the extraction, and then any tickle they have their daily price probably starting from like a 2000 all the way to like a 2003 February 1st. Oh, I don't really remember the time, probably just in the end of the 2022. Okay, so you have like a 20-year horizon of all this data. And if that's the thing you want to analyze, that's already how this data have. You don't need to download from any other place. It's already there. That's the goal you want to have. But today, as I just say, I want to try to just do the things I initially have the goal with is trying to get some SEC data. Okay, and so the first thing I want to do over there, when I get the SEC data, the raw data over there, so I have this URL link. And if I go this URL link, when I check what's going on there, you can see this data just keep updating. Right now, it's like 2022.4. But as long as you 1 year later on, I believe there's gonna be half of 2023.4. Okay, so this data is keep updating. And if I want to analyze data, one way I can do is I can manually download this data. But when you write in the code, you probably are not very interested in just writing the code combined with something manually. And if you can use the computer, I know it's all URL. How about I just automatically download this data? I don't need to do it manually. Each time I load into, I will just check this web page. Does they have the new data? If they have the new data, I should download. Okay, so today I will not do any new fancy function over here. The things I want to achieve is as long as they have the data over there, I just download the data in my hard drive. That's all I need to do. And then later on, how I extract the data, analyze the data inside, that's something later on. But at least as I just mentioned, when we try to do something, you think about that grid, but don't do all things all together. You really chop your path into a very tiny one, and then say, okay, I will at least when I analyze data, I need to download data. And I realized manually downloading doesn't require me to manually download and extract the data every like 3 months. I don't really like it. I would like to just have a computer. I run the code, they automatically do that for me. I don't want innovation. Okay, so how can we do that? Then that's the goal. So now I'm starting from analyzing the entire financial data becomes a very small task. It's I just give in this URL. Okay, I just give this URL, and then you download the hyperlink with the zip file. And any zip file, just download in my code. So that's the things I don't have. Okay, so now my task has been changed to although I have very ambitious type of things to do, but the current moments, I want to achieve the function is my current task. There's some task later on, but the current task is given one URL. We need to download all the related zip file with hyperlink. Okay, so that becomes the task we're gonna do right now. Even I just say when you use divide and conquer, and when you have this one, and I just say this is the kind of simple task I try to achieve. But when you think about this, even a very smaller task, comparing, you say I will analyze the SEC data from every aspect. This is way much scope, small scope. But even you think about this scope, it's still huge. Because you need to analyze this one, you need to find all the hyperlink. And then with the hyperlink, how you can download the data. When you download the data, how you can save it. Okay, so that's still a lot. So when you have the computer to do that, even the task of this one, at least first, you need to get all the hyperlink of zip file from the given URL, and then we will download each zip file one by one. After we download, we will save the zip file in the hard drive. Okay, so as you can see, how I starting with, the initial goal is to get SEC financial statement information. That's a huge goal I need to achieve. And when I think about this one, this goal is too much. And then I will say, okay, I need to have the raw data first. Then the raw data becomes the current task is giving any URL I'm gonna have. I need to really download the zip file with the hyperlink. But when I think about this one, this kind of task still gonna be breaking into even smaller. I need to get all the hyperlink of the given URL. Only with the hyperlink, then I can start download data. If I don't even have the hyperlink, for example, over there, if you think about this is a file, and you look at the hyperlink HTTPS wsec.grv and etc. 2022 Q4.pip. If I don't even have this hyperlink, I don't even able to download the data. Okay, so and now my task now becomes very niched and zoom in. So now although this is a huge tree out there, but I just choosing something on the bottom and trying to solve this one by one before I can go any further. Okay, so right now today our task is giving me any URL. How can I find the hyperlink? Okay, now I become this, and I still don't know how to do that, but I know Google must have some place they're gonna have. So the next thing is now I just say giving a URL, that's the web page gonna be, and I will find the hyperlink in this entire web page, and that's probably much easier task to have, and then I can start with say Python get hyperlink from URL. Okay, so that's kind of keyword because now I just boil down something. I think that's even smaller enough. Probably that's another different things you want to break it is further down. But right now, that's the thing make me feel comfortable. Say, at least I take a day, I can finish that. Okay, you don't really give you assignment take more than a day, and then try to do that one by one. And then when you're looking at here, that's a lot of different websites. It's just when you have the experience and you also look at this kind of website, that's also have some history of what's going on. And Stack Overflow, that's a lot of common type of coding sharing, but the Google also have the ranking, depending on your personal experience and the ranking of Google. But I also recommend you look at all the information over there because you need to look at the information from multi-resources. Okay, so I'll probably just start with the first one. Let's see what's gonna be this one since Google rank it first. So they're gonna say they need to have several modules. They need to have a beautiful soup, they need to have a request. There's different things, okay? And if you don't really know what beautiful soup, what request, just follow this one. As I just say, you always have the tree over there. You chop a little portion of this one to make sure the tree you are targeting is not really that deep. And then working on this one. So to me, I already use beautiful soup and the request, so it's not really tough thing for me. But for some of you, and you are the beginner, probably some fundamental knowledge for me is already known, but it's still unknown to you. Then the next way you're gonna do is you probably need to really dive into the Visual Studio 4 and request package to know what's the exact function they're providing to you and get familiar with that before you have it. So now let's just look at some example. And then here is the things they were doing. So they say they're using the request of this one and getting this URL from this. And then from this request, they're gonna have the text information. Looks like they have the HTML parser of all the things, and then try to get the URL. They have all these type of functions they're gonna have. Okay, so when you try to do that, let's have a lot of steps. And let me just try to look at. You don't really go with all the code. And the thing is, you really need to do that just one by one. So let's just have the testing purpose over there. When I look at the code, and then in the Python code, so what I gonna do over there is just try to run this one by one to see which step I gonna have. And this require you to have some fundamental Python knowledge. So over there, I need to import request. Okay, I don't have the request package. So that's the things you're gonna have. And first, are you able to import the request package here? So you can just try on your own. That's the way I'm gonna telling you like how you're gonna progress. So when you use this consoler, and then how to do import request, are you capable of getting this package? Yes or no? No? Or in the consoler, you don't, right? What kind of error message will show to you? Then, okay, try to search your scene. Whatever the error you're gonna say, can you say that again? So no more, or no module, okay? No module name request, right? That's things you're gonna get. And then when you say, because this is not installed in your own kind of computer, and then that's the things you probably need to go back and try to check. But over there, that's very common things when you start. When you're doing something, they're getting the error of the other and it continuously. But I just say, try to give you the idea how messy would it be, okay? From this project-based learning, you will meet all kinds of error all over the place. But what I'm gonna teach you is, as long as you are patient, you zoom in and then solve this one by one and backtrace. So it's very different learning model we can have. So over there, it's like right now, I want to get the URL, get the URL link and download. Even that's the thing I think it's very small, tiny enough already. And when you do that, you have all kinds of error. So when I have no module, so that's the things you're gonna go back. But over there, you can search in the error, I can directly give you the answer. So in your setting, in different version, you're gonna have different things. And then in your project of the project interpreter here, you make sure you do have the request kind of have been installed. If you're not, you will try to find the package request over there, and then click install the package into your project. Okay. So, but that's a very common thing. So when you have these missing things, they have a lot of different way how to teaching you. And over there is one way to do that is go into the setting and have the import of there, or you can actually go to the terminal. It's just have like the pipe install requests. If that's another different way to telling you. So there is no single way to achieve the goal you want to have. just like when you write in your essay, there are many different ways to describe the same concept. Okay, so the same thing over there, I just assume, I don't know what kind of way you are achieving over there after you finish doing that. And then go to your console again to do the import request. Will you be able to do that or still get error? How many of you would be able to do that? You have, right? So anyone else? Do you get?
Not yet, but I could probably figure out why it's.
Okay, and for yours? Okay, so okay. Since I just doing the recording and but over there it's not any specific things you learn here is just it's because this one is really teaching you how to fish. The purpose is to not give you the fish. Okay, for lecture-based learning, I give you the fish. It's whatever this fish you need it. But over there, it's like the way I'm teaching you how to do the fish. And any error you're gonna encounter here, you have to search and find any answer and correct before you move on. Okay, so it's like you have the tree you think about is already huge. I chop it very small. When I chop it very small, I think it's ready for me to start, but you still have a lot of unexpected things within this tree, and then you need to dive even further, and then move it back and connect all the trees. So right now, I think I already have the request over there. So at least I have the things going on here. Okay, I will just go back to this example I give to me. I don't want to do anything like fancy over there. They are using a URL, looks like they are using their own website. So I will just initialize this. Since it's initialize a string with a variable called the URL, I think it's okay for me to have, okay? So I can just start with this one. And then the start to have some request is getting this URL to have initialization of this one. Looks like they are trying to get some information from this web page. That's from the understanding of this one. So I just try to run this and then press enter. So over here, you can see this request have some information sitting here. They have a lot of other things related to, but I don't really get the error message. So looks like, okay, I'm getting some information from this URL. Looks like the coding is working, okay? And then I will start to move to the next. Let's start to have the beautiful soup and have some request test and also use HTML parser. And when I'm doing that, I realize I need to use a lot of other packages, okay? Before I go any package or the other things to go inside, let me just look at request.text. That's the things related to that. So when you try to get in your code, you don't really need to copy every component of the other code. And especially when the other code is looking at a lot of other things altogether, and you better try to understand every aspect of that. Looks like they're trying to do something over here. But when they're doing anything, at least I need to figure out what's request test would be. Let me just try to look at a small component inside to see. So over there, it's a request dot text. That's something they're gonna have. And if I try to looking at what do they show to me? And when I have this one, I realize they start creating a bracket, HTML, of all these detailed HTML information from that what kind of web page. And I need to do the verification. So here the URL is this one. Let me just try to do this. I will just copy this URL and try to look at this URL in my web browser. So that's another thing, because as I just mentioned, when you're doing this one, is based on your basic knowledge of something. If you don't even know what's HTML, then that means your knowledge tree really need to search a lot of things. And you kind of need to really know the syntax of HTML. Over here, I assume you already know the HTML. And then when I just paste in this web page and right click to look at this page source code. So over here, when I look at the page source code, and then try to compare the things I'm getting over here. So you can see that's some components. They have, I don't know why I cannot do any marker here. So when you look at this type of information sitting from here, and then comparing the source code of the page you're looking at, you realize I'm actually getting the source code of the entire HTML page. Okay, so that's the test. At least when I have the URL, I'm getting the HTML source code over there, and then any hyperlink is contained over there, but not only the hyperlink contained inside. That's a lot of enriched information over there. So first, still, when I'm talking about this knowledge based on the assumption, you know the HTML. If you don't really know anything about the HTML format, you probably need to look at the HTML format. And then anything, if you want to use Python, to grab online. And then that's a lot of things you can get from here. So when I think about this one, I'm probably gonna stop. I will not go any further. This is very useful information because this will have this function allow me to get any HTML content for any hyperlink that I can have. With this source code, I have a lot of other things I can do. And I will not go any further. Another thing I want to do is I want to check if I change to another URL, does this function give me exactly the same thing? So let's see. I want to try to see the Facebook. So I just change to facebook.com. Okay. And then I go to the Facebook, this kind of web page. So they automatically log into my accounts. So let's see, I just log out. Okay, so that's kind of be the Facebook I'm gonna have. And then when I look at the source code for this Facebook, that's the type of source code I'm getting from it, from the web browser. So when you go to any web page, web browser, you right click. Over there, you can see the page source code. Okay, so if you see this page source code, it looks like this one. I want to know if I just use Facebook, does this give me the same thing? So, and I will just do the exactly the same, change my code here. Over there, I will just use URL is equal to, now it's not these kind of websites anymore. I will just try to use the Facebook. So I will just copy this URL link and paste it here. So now, instead of I'm getting the information from this for this organization, I will try the Facebook. Okay, and then I press enter, and then the same thing when I use the syntax is the request is equal to the request package getting from whatever the URL you text to initialize something. And I want to look at the text content over there. When I'm doing that, and then request dot text. And when I just go back to check, that's a huge, okay. I probably gonna initialize this as A. That's relatively easy for me to looking at. When I initialize this as A, So for the source code over there, they say the language is English, but over there, the language is Chinese, right? So you can see there's some slight difference over there. Okay, so it turns out this is not getting the exact setting you're gonna get, but they do still get some source code similar to that. And apparently there's some components missing from here. Okay, so from this one, I don't want to go any further because when every function is gonna try, and I realize getting the HTML source code from any web page is something I can do this later on. And I probably need to go back and try to have another different check. Let's see if I go to Amazon, where Amazon have the same thing, or if I just go to the web page of the SEC, whatever I'm interested in. So I'm probably gonna look at this one and try to redone my code again. Instead of using Facebook, I'm trying to use this one, change the URL, and then getting from the URL, and then initialize the A with this URL text. And then when I'm looking at here, that's kind of the URL content from the SEC website I'm getting. And try to comparing when I look at the source code over here to compare what's the content of the A of this one. You will realize this one is actually getting identical information from it. So not always get it identical. Looks like they will look at the version of your web browser. Sometimes they cannot get the Chinese version. Sometimes they cannot give you the English version. Probably that's something you're gonna do it later on. But at least that's a starting point. Okay, that's something you can see. Any HTML you give URL you give me, and I can find the HTML source code. And this, as long as I'm getting the source code, that's a lot of information I can analyze from the source code. I can grab the information over there, or I can grab the URL inside or whatever. So from here, and when you write in the function, and you are not supposed to write in your function too far away from that. And another thing, that's the thing, when you try to write in your code, that's also related to you how to organize your data over there. And right now, when you write in your code, you better try to write this as smaller function. This function is very modular and add by itself, because when you try to combine two functions together, and then the next time you want to use a portion of this one, then you need to rewrite your own code again. And over there, I realized when I get the HTML information, are going to be useful for a lot of other scenarios. And I need to create a function that is just purely get the HTML. You can see I need to initialize this request and then return the text information. So that's the things I'm going to do. And where I'm going to put in this data structure I'm getting here, it's a very small project. You don't even bother to layer your function in different location. You probably create a one file. Every function you're going to call is from that. But when you have a very complicated project, it's just like when you're writing a huge essay, you better have the chapter, you better have the section, you better have the paragraph. Otherwise, when you try to find the information you want, it's all over the place. You are not capable of getting that. And then over there, what I'm going to do is typically I would create an API folder. It's like a problem interface. That's the things I'm going to call my function. And over there, when I have this one, I create a first folder. Over there is dealing with getting the data. Because for this one, they have a lot of different functions you're going to use. You're going to analyze your data, you're going to process your data, you're going to read the data, and this is doing a lot of different places, and you're going to need to create the hierarchical structure. I think getting the data, especially for you to analyze data, it's worth for you to have a folder for that. And when you get the data, that's another lot of things you need to be aware. When you get in the data, this data can come in from a lot of different places. You can get the data from the other third party feeds into you. You can get the data from a database. You can get the data from the hard drive. You can get the data from a lot of different places. And then when you have this one, you probably need to think about, I need to create another folder. It's like if I get the data from the web, to differentiate, I'm probably going to get the data from the database. When I have the database, I have a lot of different things. If it's just depending on how complicated your project will be. I don't know whether I'm going to get the data from the database or going to get the data from the other things. But for me, I just say, I better have another web page to see, at least when I call in the function, getting the data from the web, I'm not mixture this with getting the data from the database, because that's really different system you can have. Okay, and then when you get the web, and now probably that's the things you can start work on. And so the first thing is you're gonna create a file. Now they start to really have the function of it. As I just said, when you create a structure of this one, depending on how complicated your project will be. If you just write a one paragraph kind of text, you don't really need to create a structure. The structure is going to make you messed up. But when you try to create like 1,000 pages of the things, then if you don't really have the structure, you have no idea where they are. So just depending on the different situation, what kind of.
So we only try to access the websites where we kind of allow to scrape data, right?
Yes.
For example, some websites, they do not allow access to scrape data and share.
So that's the thing, definitely you're gonna be working on later on, right? So that's another different technique you actually can do, but I just don't want to dive into the detail, because if you are not even able to scrap the data that's publicly available to you for the low level of the things, there's something you need to log in and have a more complicated technique. But still, so as you can see, depending on how complicated they are, if you wanted to working on the task, only getting the data, they just directly give to you, or you need to go into some website, they need to have the login information. Then, if that's the type of function you really want to go into, you probably need to have a folder. It's like a direct access. Another one is a login. Okay, but over there, I just say I don't want my project to be overly complicated. I don't really want to go into the website. I really need to log in because that's a lot of other techniques involved. I probably just go around because the SEC, that's just publicly available. So that's the things I'm gonna have. So over there, I probably just getting the HTML content or whatever. Probably I was HTML. It's one example of XML. So I probably just keep a Python name called XML, but it's just the personal preference. Sometimes they want to use HTML. It just reminds you, I'm getting the information from HTML, but I just say the XML is a more general type of umbrella term that contains the HTML. And the XML getting the information, I believe, is the same as HTML. So that's why I was just create a web name of this one. And then I will just adding this file into. And all I'm gonna do is import. So what I import request request package here. And the first function I really need to define, and to do this is get XML source. It's source code or source text, whatever. I probably just have this function here. What I primarily achieve is any URL sent to me, and I will return the text source content to you. And then what I'm gonna do is just using the previous one is what's the function we're gonna get. I need to go back to check. So you say, okay. They have something, say, request variable is equal to the request package using get, and then they have the URL over there. After they copying this one, I'm gonna return the request. That's essentially the function I'm gonna run, because each time I need to get this one and I have the text information. It's very granular. It's kind of small enough. Any other time when I try to get the source content from the HTML, I can just directly call this function to give me the information for my next step. Okay, so once I read this one, and the next thing is just I finish just writing the function, and I will gonna see whether I'm writing the function that's just ready to give me the results I want. So I will just close the console. And then when I have this one, I need to import its API. That's my first folder. And then I go into my data folder. I have my web, and I create XML file. That's the package I manually create. So that's the XML file. As you need to call this package you create by yourself, because that's a lot of package created by others. You just directly call their function. But when you do your own specific kind of project, you have your own function you're gonna have. For me, I typically just choose the first letter of each folder to remind me what the structure would be. So I will use ADWX. That's the package I call in. And then for the ADWX, I do have the function is getting the source code content from whatever I'm gonna get. And then, over here, I'm not return this one, I actually return the text, okay? And then let's see, HTTPS. Let me just try to use the same source code of the SEC here, because that's mainly the things I'm gonna get. And then I put it over here. And then when I press enter, and you can see all I'm getting here is a response 200. And I'm writing something wrong because I'm not returning the text information. So I need to really change my text code. And then I will just copy these two things and close the console, because I changed my data or change my code, and I just run it again. And I probably gonna need to run the last one. And press it again. And that's gonna be the text content I'm getting from this web page. And if I try to compare this one with the source code I'm getting, okay, I realize I'm actually getting the source code from this web page. I'm actually getting it, okay? So depending on where you're gonna go, because this one is the website you want to download the zip file, probably you're gonna start here. But when you try to writing your project later on, you want to get from some information from Yahoo Finance or the other kind of website, because this website have their source code of some external type of information to verify the data you're gonna have. Then if this website is not directly downloadable, or they need to log in on the other things, I probably need to use another different technique to do it. But right now, for me, it's okay for me to achieve my current task. I maybe just move on with this one. Okay, so that's the thing. As you can see, I try to do something. I really think about I'm kind of ambitious, and I spend even like 1 hour struggling all the things. What I gonna do? Can we finish that code? That's why I finish. So you need to get depressed or say, oh, I'm just moving so slow like a total snail. You don't need to worry about that. It's very common. When you go to a coding job, especially something you don't really know, you maybe spend a day just write 3 lines of code. That's why you achieve. Okay? You don't need to be worried about that. It's like when you get more used to that, then you can start familiar to know all these things you're gonna know. But over there, it's still, as I just said, I'm teaching you like a coding method. It's like where you're gonna start. And you think about, I try to grab all the information from the SEC and analyze data. What eventually I achieve right now? I'm only doing this one. Just give me a URL, I get the HTML source code. That's all I keep presenting to you at the current moment. But were that going to be useful components to move forward? Yes. How can I narrow down? As I just say, use divide and conquer. You don't go with too much ambitious goal. It's like initially you want to have all the SEC, any financial statement data, I give the tickle, and I want to know the earning in the past 10 years. If that's the thing I want. Apparently, there's no direct way you can get your goal you want to have. And the thing is, if I want to get the earning for any tickle for the past 10 years, at least I can download the SEC data. If I not even download their source code, source data, I'm not even getting any information. When I think about I download their data, and then it becomes, given this URL, how can I download all the zip file into with the hyperlink? And then when I'm doing even a simple task look like this one, I need to further say, get all the hyperlink of the file of the given HTML. And even I zoom in to get this one, I realize for the 1.1 over there, I need to get the HTML source code from the given URL. Then it's 1.2, get the hyperlink from the HTML source code. And today, what do? We only doing things this. That's a small task we can have. And then what's going to be our next step? 1.2. Okay. Once we go to the 1.2, and when we finish that, when we're able to get all the hyperlink, then we will move to the 2. And then the 2 definitely would continue to unfold. When we're doing 2, probably there's a lot of other things we need to do. But once we unfold it, we keep moving on until everything under this 2 is solved, then I move to 3. That's the way you're gonna have. It's like you have a large tree, you realize I'm gonna over here, and then go further down and further down to some place it's capable or comfortable for you to tackle, and then you move here, and then gradually move back, connecting all the components. Okay, so that should be the way how you're gonna do. And you can see I spent 1 hour. What I learned, I barely learn anything. If I just teach you in the lecture, maybe just take 10 minutes. But when you try to do that by your own, maybe more than an hour, even a day. But what's the benefit of the learning method look like this one? It's gonna be on your own. Just like You can sit there like the baby, let someone to feed you. You can finish that drinking the milk or the lunch very quickly in 10 minutes. But when you grab your own spoon, you probably take 2 hours and make all messy all over the place. But when you're doing that, when you spend more and more time, and then you will be independent. Okay, you don't need anyone feed you anymore. As for the people get used to be fed, and that's the problem of current education. That's why the coding job is not that hard. Okay, they don't really need high math or any other thing. But why we are so shortage of the competent person of that? Because the current education system training 90% of the people is giant baby. They only get comfortable feeding. They so afraid of grabbing their spoon because they're gonna make messy all over the place. But if you're not able to get over that, you will be the 90% population over there. When you get over there, you're gonna be another 10%. Then that's gonna be the high salary job waiting for you. Okay, and I'm not capable of doing that. It's just like you cannot help any baby how to work. The baby go to do struggling for themselves to figure that out. There's no way you can really teach them. It's just falling many times to figure out, oh, that's gonna be the right way, and then how they continue with that. Okay, so that's just for today. And then once we have that in the next class, I probably still have the demo to walking through, give you how I gonna work, or I give you the idea how the normal coding type of job, they are actually working in a real life. What's the working procedure of that? And then when you get used to it, and I just finished achieving the task, like automatically download the file, save in my hard drive, and then they don't do the extraction and then all the other things, then that's the thing you probably can give it a try. But this is give you the idea how you can move on. And if you want, you can definitely start to how can I get the hyperlink from the source code, since you already have the source code, right? So that's another thing you can zoom in and try to figure out by yourself to see whether you can make this connected and make it working there. Okay, so that's just for today's demo, and we will just stop here. Okay, any question you have, then you can just ask me. Otherwise, you are free to go.